Everybody. Today we've got Dom again, and we are going to be talking about confidence. Specifically, what does it take to actually build confidence? And we're going to be talking about it in relationship to building confidence in our dogs, and from our perspective, in our clients. So, it's a big thing. We want our dogs to be confident. We want our clients to be confident in what they're doing, but how do we actually do that? So, yeah. Hello, Dom. Hello. Um, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of like what do we have to do to build confidence?
Facilitating an environment where they can experience a positive association to something that has previously been seen or felt as a negative. So creating experience, like the only way to change an association with something is to build an experience that's positive, that outweighs the negative, and repeat that until you see that there is behavioural change consistently. So if you, perfect example, and I will use an example I had from the weekend. When I was a kid, I haven't ridden a bicycle for a long time. I ride motorbikes, but even that, I have examples of that. But this one is just because it's recent. When I was a kid, some might find it shocking, but others may not. I thought I could do what all the boys could do. So we were at Centennial Park, and my brother and his friend were riding down a hill on their bicycles. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. Sure, I can do that. I think I was about, I probably would have been about 9. My bicycle at the time didn't have the rubber grips, so it was just metal. I know, rebel, right? Anyway, got up the top, coming down the hill. Woo, this is really exciting. How exciting. And then my wheel got stuck and twisted in something. I went over the top of it and the handlebar went into my ribs. It broke the skin, didn't break my ribs or any major injury, but it cut me and fell over, and I was like, oh. So I've recently been given a mountain bike because I got on a bike at a friend's and rode around and went, oh my God, I miss this. This is lots of fun. So for Christmas, I was given a mountain bike. And on the weekend, we were riding around down in Wollongong, and it was really lovely. And then my partner said to me, okay, ride down the stairs. And instantly I went, oh, not a hill. My brain just went straight away to that feeling of moving down. Even though it wasn't a massive trauma, it was just a cut in my chest, which I still have a scar to, but that still triggered that memory. So I explained this and we talked about how we could change it. So I went down 2 steps. I went, okay, cool. Thought about how I had to navigate that, what position I had to have my body in. Then I went down a couple more steps. And over the morning, I ended up, by the end of it, I went down 2 flights of stairs, right? So it was pretty quick progression.
Mhm.
I had the reasoning to be able to understand and think about, okay, how am I feeling about this? Did anything bad happen? Am I in control of the situation? Got to the bottom, went, woo, and then jumped off the gutter and thought I was amazing. Yay. But what I had to do is facilitate that very small steps of success and experience where it didn't put me at that extreme part of fear and worry. Prove to myself that I could do it successfully and slowly approximate myself upwards to something more difficult, to the point where I was confident when I went down that final set of stairs that, I changed my position without thinking because it just felt better. And I was confident. I wasn't thinking about what the possibilities were.
Yeah.
So that's one way of doing it.
Yeah. So so in a nutshell, it's like, okay, cool, you've got this goal. Right. I want to get down. I want to get down on my bike down these stairs. But the idea of doing that whole thing is for the sake of this, like for the wording and the sake of this conversation, it's what we lacked confidence in.
Mm.
And in order to get there, rather than just going head first, which some might, but risk assessment, not always appropriate. Not always appropriate. Not always inappropriate either, but hey ho. Um, in the times where it's like, no, it's not really appropriate, we go, cool. Let's break that down into smaller steps. Let's build the association, like let's build an experience that you can actually feel like, yeah, I accomplished that, like this level of the experience. Learn what it felt like, learn that it was okay, and from there thought I can make this progressively. We can do progressively more until we get to that point.
Mm.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, it's approximations, but I think it's knowing what the end goal is, because if we're talking it in terms of, a dog, what is the end goal? So we identify what the goal is, or if we're looking at, we have a dog that is wary or has a negative bias towards new things, new people, new environments.
yeah,
How do we build that confident curiosity? Because most living things are curious. The main thing that prevents us from being curious is fear and worry or overthinking a situation.
yeah,
So we want to build that confident curiosity in the dog by combating their negative bias to change or novel things. So it's
yeah,
looking how we can create novel things in tiny, minute steps so that we don't elicit that extreme level of fear, that extreme emotional response, which then gives the behavior, which then is almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy of, see, I told you the world was scary. We introduce novel things or novel, you wouldn't necessarily introduce them to a novel environment. I think that's probably further down the track.
but
But in
you'd
the
introduce
time,
it to a degree of novelty.
yeah, but where where you are eliciting the ability to be curious and investigate on their own. So it's human facilitated, animal controlled.
Yeah,
So the dog is in control of their movements and their choices. We can control them by what we might do in terms of where we might place certain things that they can use as reinforcers, like snuffle mats or kongs or bones or a chew or licky mat, or whatever it is that we know that the dog would be curious about, feel safe enough to be curious about, because that's the baseline of it. We've got to create that safety
mm,
so that they can not have to worry about their environment. They just see something and go, what's that? I'd like to investigate that,
yeah.
which builds that
And
experience.
and you're trying to build as well when we're building confidence. Like I've seen people do things like where they get the dogs or get any individual like super excited and get them over the hill. And that again has got its merit. There's times to do that, but a lot of the time it's also I find if you fail at that, you kind of break trust, and it also can plateau because you're not the dog's not or the individual because it does work for it's the same with people too. They're not really thinking about it. So a lot of the time, I'm not aiming for this quick win of like excitement, getting over the hill. I'm aiming for calm curiosity, and that seems to like if I was to look at like a how quickly a graph of like how quickly and how long you see results. Like if I get somebody an individual like really excited to get over the hill, I see this sudden spike which feels really good at the beginning. It's like, yes, I'm making so much progress, but then we see a plateau. Whereas if I'm building calm curiosity and let the dog come out of their shell to and gradually grow in confidence at their own pace. At the beginning, we might not see this immediate, like what the same degree of immediate success. Like it goes boring, 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 boring. But what we're doing in this boring line is foundation setting. And we're building this memory bank and building autonomy and genuine confidence in the situation and more importantly in their own decision making, um, that it kind of layers in and then it starts to really snowball and you can go much further and much longer with that foundation set rather than just get them over it by with excitement.
Well, that's it. I mean, and excitement subsides.
Yeah,
And it's, are they even aware of where they are? Are they only excited because the human has excited them? So their focus is on the human and they're completely oblivious to what's going on. It's kind of like when you hear, you might talk to a client and they'll be like, when I walk my dog, they seem to react to everything. But when I run,
Yeah.
they're fine.
Yeah.
We go, because the duration of time that they are able to process is minimized. Plus, they are running away from the thing that they're worried about.
Yeah.
When you're walking, the thing that they are worried about may just appear all of a sudden, or it may stay in position for longer periods of time. So that's not a true estimation of how they're really feeling. So what you were explaining there of, the foundations, the progression of what we're seeing looks to the naked eye,
Yeah.
it's not fast.
Yeah.
But when you see a dog go from hesitation to a step forward without blinking, that's massive progress for a dog that's worried about the world. If they
Yeah.
walk into space and walk into a space, they might not initially engage with everything. But if you started with a dog that won't walk into a space until their human is with them, or you try and lure them with something, that's sort of it. You are breaking down what we're looking for into these tiny minute amounts so that you build that solid foundation, so that you don't have that regression.
Mm.
Can see that true evidence of there is behavioral change and association being built, because the hesitation goes away. They're breathing normally, they're blinking normally, they're engaging with their space without that, oh crap.
And like in terms of right, okay, so it's the same sort of thing, same sort of theme. So our role for our clients, and ultimately what we're trying to teach our clients, their role with their dog, right? There's a fine line, and it's God, it's half art, half science, I think, around like knowing when to be showing the way and when to step back, but still be there as a safety net. Is
Mm,
this it is an art and a science all in one. It's like I'm going to kind of demonstrate, I'm going to kind of try to get you in, but ultimately I don't want to drag you in. Um, and when we get the signals that they're starting to get it, whether or not we're looking at the dog learner or the human learner, both are the same. When we start to think they're getting it, we want to make sure that they're doing it in this is where that experience kicks in. That's the phase where experience kicks in. Like you
mm,
want them to have experiences that they're not going to find negative and they're not going to dent the confidence backwards. Um, and it is a fine line of whether or not you should be metaphorically like leading them in or coaching them in. Like I was saying to a client this morning, like the dog is starting to show these moments of like more curiosity towards dogs. And it's great that we're seeing it, but he's also socially naive and he fucks it up, right? He goes towards the wrong dog and or sometimes he goes in a little bit too hot. And that's where we catch him on with the lead and we go, wee, bad decision, kiddo. And I always relate it back to I made the comparison this morning with my daughter, right? She's at the stage where she's running around walking, but like a little drunk, she's terrible at it. And she's yeah, exactly. But she's just suddenly figured out the stairs are amazing. And so I'm not going to not let her go upstairs or anything like that. I want her to, you know, it's real life. You can't live on a flat for the whole life. So she's gonna have to navigate stairs at some point. And I'm not stopping her unless obviously there's a genuine safety concern. But I'm also there. I'm ready to just be there if she does need me. Right? It's just in case. I'm not making contact, but I'm certainly ready. And it's the same with my leash handling. I want to handle my leash in a way that's like I'm not necessarily interfering, but hey, it's there just in case. And these are the little fine skills that we want our clients to learn so that they feel confident in their own ability to handle the situation while building their so often what we're teaching is somebody that is inexperienced and lacking confidence how to grow the confidence of another individual. So there's one of the reasons I think we're often promoting a bit of distance first between the person and their dog, between whatever it is they're finding stressful, is because both parties are pretty shit at this at the start. Like, neither of you have practiced this. Like, let's get good at it from a distance so you're not in the deep end.
Mm. It's also, their experience before they come to us, they will have built habits.
Yeah, not necessarily good ones.
Well, that's it, because they then become unsure and wary, like let's say for a dog that's, reactive to other dogs. The handler's reactions or automatic responses will be conditioned over through the experiences that they would have had before they come to us.
Mm,
So it's also navigating the caregiver side as well, because they will have the same worry and negative bias when they go into certain environments through the experiences that they have had. So it's up to us to help them learn new lead skills, learn to breathe, tell them
yeah.
it's not their fault.
But
that
even that learning to breathe, like I like pointing it out. So I had a client today whose leash handling, they were doing well, but it was the first time they'd ever handled a leash this way, and they were thinking so much about it that they were holding their breath. So it's learn to breathe is good. I agree, but also be aware that right now you're not ready to be over there in the deep end because you're not breathing. And that's okay. We just you just need some more repetition. You need more experience. Going back to your first point, like
but
the
it's
experience.
with anything, if you have that, you've built that a negative association, whatever it might be, you have to have a competing positive experience over however long, because everybody's different. Every dog is different. However long that it counteracts, it will never go away.
No.
That negative memory never goes away. When people just say, oh, will they just always be fixed? It will always be there. It's a memory. You can't wipe memories. We don't, have a magic wand and go, they're going to forget about it. It's always going to be there. But we build enough experience through facilitating their ability to make decisions, because we are getting them to make a decision that is self-reinforced and they feel safe, that then they can move forward, become curious about their environment,
Mm.
and then something else reinforces them. So
Yeah.
there's just this constant reinforcement loop of these tiny little things, because there are so many different situations. There are so many variables in every situation. It's not that, okay, well, we've got the dog, okay, with this dog, now off you go, let them off in a dog park. We have to look at all the variables, including how the caregiver handles the lead. Are they luring them? Are they holding them back? Are they cueing them by, all of a sudden going? So we have to change their experience in all the different variables and different situations until we eventually proof the experience, where you can see that if the dog does feel or think this could be a negative thing, they have built enough experience and memory of different situations and their ability to either look to the caregiver and go, I need some help, or choose an alternative behavior, which might then disengage them from the situation they're in, whether that be ground sniffing, running away, doing a rollover, walking towards a human, butt scooting, whatever it might be. But it's building their ability to make that decision on their own,
Yeah.
so that when shit happens, because it does, that's life, they don't then regress back to, oh crap, this is where I do A, B, C, D. And then
Yeah.
you're back.
Yeah. Because you're going to always fall back to under stress. You're always going to fall back to the behavior most practiced.
Yep.
Like not always, but 99.9% of the time, that's what you're going to fall back to. And if your
Template.
memory bank isn't of positive experiences and practices isn't as big as negative ones, then guess which one they're going to fall back to. And I used the bank account thing once with a client, and he was in finance, and we were talking about it with his kids. We were using this analogy as well. And he was really smart. He said to me, "You're absolutely right about the bank account thing. Like I get that, like with his dogs, with his kids and everything." He said, "The thing is though, negative experiences aren't equal to positive ones. There's always interest on the negative ones. And you can't go, okay, they've had one negative one. We just counter that with one positive. It's like it's there's no definitive number, but normally it's a lot of positive ones to counter one negative one because they're
Mhm.
not built equally. They don't form the same sort of memories. Um,
Well, no,
but
if that was the case, you and I would be out of a job and there wouldn't be such things as psychiatrist, psychologist, or medication.
yeah,
If it was that simple. So that's a beautiful way of saying it because it's not just, oh, well, you just, because clients will say it. How come they're able to walk past five dogs, but then they barked at the sixth? Well, we've only built him up to be able to be okay for probably two.
yeah, yeah. Who's to say that all five of the ones he passed, he had positive experiences with? Like one of them might have been flipping him the bird, the other one might have bared his teeth.
Yep.
Like you never know, do you? It's
No.
yeah, and you can't. No, but it's very hard to know how anybody feels at face value, right? Sitting here today, you can't. Anybody watching this has no idea what else has happened in our days and what we're going to go back to in real life.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, people can put on brave faces, so can our dogs, and it can. You got to be mindful of that.
Well, I think it's more that we have an interpretation of what we believe our dogs are learning and feeling. I don't know what a dog feels. I can make an educated guess by watching their behavior, but I can't definitively say that dog feels amazing. We
Yeah,
say it,
yeah,
when if I walk into a room and the dog's doing all of this, I'm like, that dog really likes me. Does it?
yeah,
Or does it
yeah.
like what I mean for the dog? If I walk into a client, say for the second time, and previously I did a lot of engagement and, you know, sent work or paid them treats, and then I walk in the next time and they're all like, oh my God, they love you. And I know, no, they don't. Dog likes what memory I left with them.
Mm,
All the experience I gave that dog was very, very positive. So my presence, possibly, again, we don't know exactly what goes on in the dog's brain, reminds them of that. And that's their expectation.
yeah,
That
yeah,
expectation, happy. If I don't give them, and that's happened before, if I've walked in and if I haven't delivered what I delivered before, we then start to see frustration. So
yeah,
again, it goes back to the dog doesn't love me. The dog has an expectation of the experience of what I last left them with.
yeah.
So we have to remember that as well when we're working with animals and people. What is the expectation that you left with that animal?
Funny, I had like a really positive experience today with the clients. Met them for the second time today, and this dog is like typically overstimulated by like, life. But me coming in the first time was way overstimulating. Apparently, there was like a 24-hour hangover from it, as in like a
Yeah.
stimulated hangover. But last time I was there, we did everything we could to create a calm association. Came in today, and within 3 or 4 minutes, he went, "Ah, thank God," and he fell asleep. And we were able to have a conversation without him stealing and jumping and all of that. Um, that would that was like again, like it's not that he liked me. He didn't really engage with me, but he did look at he did, as soon as he realized I was coming in and was sat down, he went, "Oh, this is great. I can drop my guard because this guy seems to provide a safe and predictable environment." I'm assuming that's what he thought, but again, I'm guessing.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was interesting to see. But on the other end of the scale, like if we don't, you said, I can make an educated guess on how my dog feels. Yours and hopefully mine would be an educated guess. I see a lot of people make guesses that aren't that educated, like, oh, he's wagging his tail. He must be happy. Or he's got excited. He must love you. Or he's laying down. Oh, does he not like you? Like all of these uneducated guesses really aren't that helpful. So it is important to genuinely get to know if you're going to try to step in and alter your dog's behavior, confidence, we'll go back to that, then we want to start really educating ourselves on dog body language, dog behavior, because otherwise you're not making an educated guess at all, really.
Well, no, and that kind of goes back to a lot of what people will label
Yeah,
behaviors. So aside from just, my dog's wagging their tail, but you can also get dogs who grin and people go, oh, that dog's aggressive. It's like, actually, that's just it's a Dalmatian. They grin. They
they're
like to
smiling. Yeah, they're actually smiling.
He's actually smiling.
Yeah.
Scary
Um,
when you first see it.
sorry.
Scary when you first see a dog grin
Oh
at you.
yeah, like
You don't know what that means. You're like, uh-oh.
yeah, it catches you off guard.
Yeah.
Like even when you know it's a Dalmatian, the first time you see it, because not all Dalmatians do it, like, oh geez, man, what the hell? Like, yeah.
Mm.
Um, anything else you want to add to confidence today?
No, I think really at the end of the day, it's people understanding that it is the individual and their behavioral response that we have to see to then
Yeah.
go, okay, I do see change. As small as it is, I've seen it consistently over whatever, however many repetitions or however many days. That's amazing. And look at the small wins. Don't look over here. We do it as humans with our own goals. We go, this is where I need to be. If you've got to go up a hill, don't look at the hill, look at your foot, look at the next step that you have to take. And don't assume just because you've done something with your dog that they're going to be confident about it, or assume that just because you're there, they're going to be okay about it. That's
Mm.
great if they see you as a safety net, but ultimately you want the dog to see you as a safety net when they don't have their own,
Yeah.
rather than just 100% rely on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and like just to add, like, if we're going just to recap and summarize, like, if you are looking at building confidence, like assess the individuals in front of you, how concerned, how much confidence they're lacking, what's their general resilience like? That's a big factor. And how much when you're setting up a scenario for them to be able to do and get over, just gauge how many consequences are actually going to be are likely to occur in that. Like, and it's not like there shouldn't be necessarily be none, because if you've got a resilient dog, that's not the end of the world if there is a little bit. But again, it's absolutely a judgment call. And going back to what you just said, it's down to the individual. But there's lots of little factors to consider. Cool. Thank you so much for today. Uh,
No worries.
have a great
Bye.
day.
You too.